film based on the experiments that Dr. Philip Zimbardo performed in 1971. 20 college boys are assumed to conduct a social study that focuses on locking them in a jail built at Stanford University for 2 weeks. They are divided into groups, guards and prisoners, based in an interview where they should certain personality traits to know the role that they are going to play within the experiment. The only role is to behave as if they were actually locked in a prison and the prisoners obey the guards and that the guards behave like the authority. As the days progress in the experiment, the situation worsens and the guards become more aggressive and authoritarian, dealing with more violence to the prisoners. The role played by each one is getting stronger to such an extent that two of the prisoners let them out, and for those who stayed, it was difficult to manage their emotions and anxiety. The psychologists in charge of the experiment are also affected, and they convince themselves that they have gone from the line, both of them and the guards, with the prisoners, and they are leaving the project one by one. The experiment only lasts 6 days because Dr. Philip decided to suspend the experiment after witnessing an appealing scene of the prisoners and the guards.
In the movie Stanford Prison Experiment, we can see several psychological phenomena in both the guards and the prisoners, and following the theories of Eric Fromm, we can analyze the next information. Relationship. It is the instinct to establish a bond with other people. The film establishes a relationship between guards and prisoners who spent almost 6 days together. Transcendence. The need to make a mark in someone's life. The psychologist in charge of the experiment impacted in the life of the chosen young people in a negative way because during the process they suffered anxiety attacks and they were losing their identity. Rooting. Desire to feel that the world is our home and feel belonging, like the prisoners in the prison. Sense of identity. Capacity that allows us to recognize ourselves as independent beings. The objective of the social experiment was early removing their identity, starting with its name, which was replaced by a number. This short term defaulted on young people because they felt that they no longer owned themselves, as they say in a final interview. People have an instinct for freedom, but there are those who fear freedom and try to reject it. So it's given what he called an escape mechanism. Authoritarianism renews independence by joining others. It is divided into masochism and sadism. This example can be clearly seen during the film by separating the guards and the psychologists have not put a limit on them. So they acted by imposing themselves as the highest authority and even beat them and mistreated both physically and emotionally by being aware that they were forbidden to do that. Destructiveness. Feelings of loneliness and isolation. The prisoners that were sent to the pit spent hours there, but as they had a distortion of time, they thought that they spent days, which made it longer and solitary their waiting to such a degree of beginning to leave or threaten to call a lawyer until they reached their exit. Conformity. Attempt to flee the destructiveness, waiving individuality. After seeing the abuses, and with it will be the thing some of the prisoners accept, that it was just an experiment and that flew more than 2 weeks, so they obeyed everything that was being sent to them.